One of the hardest skills to gain as a trader is to be able to scale into your winning trades to increase the profits you make. It's completely unnatural for us to add risk to trades that are already going in our direction. So today I'm going to show you a very simple price action technique that added probability and confirmation that price is ending up in your direction. It's a very simple method. Stick around to the end. I hope you guys enjoy, and please feel free to ask any questions. Okay, so I'm going to be breaking down this trade I took on GJ. We ended up taking the initial position with 5 lot and then added an extra 2.5 lots for just over 2% risk. So let's break it down. First of all, I want to just break it down on a technical level. The first position, how we took that, and then we'll talk about scaling into the trade. So this was the previous daily close. So we're trading on Thursday over here. This was the Wednesday close. We can see the daily previously rejected previous levels and closed below previous daily support. We still respected this daily sort of watch zone over here. This was also a weekly level. So I'm just going to mark this as sort of daily level. Okay. And then daily up here as well. Okay. If we then go down to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we've created a low, okay, big wick to fill, which we can look to attack, especially if we create a nice top wick for price to continue down and fill this wick. But point is, we created a nice low, broke below all this previous sort of levels. And now we can expect price to pull up, create a top wick before continuing down. Okay. And that's exactly what happened. You can see during Asia, we had a massive push to the upside. And then sort of just before London, we created resistance. Okay. So I'm going to mark this here for our resistance. Okay. So if you guys are familiar with this sort of sheet I have over here, it's completely free. You can access it in the Discord, and all of the sort of setups and price action that I took on this trade was taken exactly from this position, this chart. Okay. So when we see the 4-hour creating a new low over here, creates a new low, pulls up, creates resistance, the next thing we can expect price to do is ultimately come down and retest these levels. Okay. We created a low, lower high. What do we expect price to do next? It's simply continue down. So low, lower high, continue down, retest these levels. Okay. So that was the sort of plan heading into the day, especially with the previous daily close. We can imagine this is a nice daily top wick now. Okay. So if you look at the sheet, essentially all we're doing here is taking a support/resistance trade on the higher time frames. Okay. So bearish resistance formed, good chance you're going to pull down and fill this range. Okay. So didn't end up getting a trade in the London session, but then we had New York. We could see this nice strong 4-hour bearish close. There's a good chance we can pull up, create a top wick, and then flip to continue down to this 71 pip range. So heaps of clean range still to work with. And I'm just going to mark this level here for our support. Okay, so that's the sort of level we're targeting overall. Okay, pretty clean area as well. Then we go down to the hourly, and very simple price action. We can see we are breaking below previous support on our support, and we're also holding resistance. Okay, so support broken, resistance held and created, and we're simply just making lower lows and lower highs. Okay, simple price action. What do we expect price to do next? Pull back, create a lower high, continuation. Simple as that. Okay, go down to the 30, very similar story, and 15, also very similar story. Okay, first of all, I want you guys to take note of how clean this range is. Okay, so across all the time frames, this range was completely clean. So what that means is there's a good chance if price gets into this range and it has structure to rely on and direction, volume will push it through this range. Okay, very simple, high probability setups in this area. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is we want to try find structure, right? Taking a trade here, it makes sense, right? But because the previous structure is all the way here, or at least here, you're looking at about 45 pips, okay? Because price could pull back all the way up here, okay? It could even go all the way up here, and it still would make sense, right? If you wanted to take this trade, you would need to have big stops. You would need to have stops above this previous level. Unless you're trying to get in on the 5-minute and sort of scalp, which is an option, you need to have stops above here. So what I did was I simply waited for price to create a pullback, break below that level of support that's going to be formed, and then continue down to have tighter stops. Okay, so as we can see, price created level. We did have a little breakout here, but I didn't like these wicks, so I just waited for a new pullback, which we ended up getting, and then there we go, we broke out. Okay, and this was all during the time between London and New York. Okay, so we can expect a bit lower volume. Then we have New York open, pre-New York at about 7 a.m. EST. It is still a bit early, but there's a good chance we're going to see volume, especially if we see a breakout like this. Okay, so exactly like we said, price created support and broke below that level of support. So 15 support. We also create 15 resistance and respect that level of resistance. So lower low, lower high, lower low. What do we expect price to do next? Well, push or pull back a little bit and then continue. Okay, so this was where I entered my first position, which was a 5 lot. Okay, so I put stops above previous level over here. Okay, and this is just a normal trade, normal breakout trade. If you look over here, simple breakout trade. Okay, below support, nice bearish close, higher time frame aligns, top wick, boom, break the low, continuation. Okay, so this was the first trade, about a 21 pip stop, and this was a 5 lot, which was about 1.5% risk on the 21 pip stop. Okay, so if I lose this, minus 1.5. It's fair enough, high probability trade, good chance with volume price is going to continue to push through here. Okay, also we now have structure to rely on. So if we look at the 5 minute, we have this level of structure over here to rely on. Okay, so if price is going to pull back, even if it does pull back, because this is a new hourly open, we expect price to create a top wick. Even if it does pull back, there's a good chance we're going to respect this structure. I actually had stops above this 5 level over here, so about 23 pips. Even if it pulls back, good chance we're going to respect this previous level of support. Okay, and then continue down. Okay, so with that in mind, I took the sell as price opened up. It created a little top wick and I expected volume to push through, but we ended up getting triggered and price pulled back all the way back to this level of support, which is now turned into resistance, and we respected that level. Okay, so at this stage we had broken out, pulled back, created an hourly top wick. So if you can imagine the hourly, this is just going to be a 15 pip top wick. We've retested back to this previous level of resistance and we've respected it because we've closed below. Okay, so if we look over here, this is going to be our cue for potential scaling into our trades. Okay, right over here, perfect setup. Create the breakout, price creates a head tail, which is what I call this, head tail. If we break the low, good chance we're going to continue down. Okay, so we have a breakout and we have a head tail. Okay, we respect previous levels, and if you think about it on the lower time frames, what's this going to be? It's simply going to be a low, a pullback, a retest, a continuation if we break the low. Okay, so if you look at the 5 minute, all we're doing, create a low, pullback, retest. If we break this low, it'll just be a break and retest, continuation. Okay, so very high chance with this clean range. Look how clean this range is. We're going to continue down into pre-NY volume. Okay, so I said to myself here, we rejected the previous level again. If we now come down and break this low and we see volume, very good chance we're going to start seeing a nice push. Okay, so what I did was I entered, or not yet, I said to myself, if we break this low, I'm going to enter more lots and kept the stops at the same position. And this one was 2.5 lots, or about 0.75% risk. Okay, so half of that. So that brings us to 2.25% risk. Okay, instead of 1.5. Okay, so yeah, that was the plan. If we break this low, we've seen a breakout, we've seen a head tail, good chance we're going to continue down. Okay, now one thing I need you guys to focus on when we're taking or scaling into extra trades, the idea we originally had is we want volume to push through. Okay, you need to be a little bit aggressive with these. Okay, because if you take the L, pretty big L. Okay, 2.25. Okay, so you need to be quite aggressive with this. If you start seeing price sort of reject and hover around this area, it's not worth it, right? Or for me, at least, it's not worth it, because the plan I had is we've broken out, we've rejected. We now, if we see volume, we're going to push and push and push through this range. Okay, so if we don't see volume, there's no reason to hold that extra 0.75% risk. That's a lot. Okay, that's a lot of risk. You need to be quite aggressive with these. And if you start seeing rejection of even 5 minute levels, don't be scared to go break even. You still have your original trade. Okay, so there's a fine line between being aggressive and being stupid. Okay, and this is something I've messed up a lot. I say to myself that yes, this trade made sense and adding more made sense, but then what we do is we break the low and we start rejecting, we start coming back, we start rejecting, we start ranging, and we don't see that volume push, cut it. Close that position. It's not worth holding that extra percentage risk, okay? So all you got to think about is we took this extra position because we expect volume. If we don't see volume, the second position doesn't make sense. Simple as that, okay? And what ended up happening, smash through, okay? It was like a 1 minute push. We broke the low and pushed straight away. No ifs, no buts, it just pushed, okay? In hindsight, if you guys saw before the trade I actually took, I closed the first position at this 5 minute level over here, which at the time made sense to me because GJ, with intervention and all the news we've been seeing, has been doing a lot of pushes and then big rejections before continuing down. Okay, so I thought we'd already pushed about 16, 17 pips. That's a very average push, okay? Like that's what we can expect during pre-NY, 15, 16, 17 pips. We can expect that push before a rejection. So I said to myself, let's close this first position. We still have the second position open. I'll take 17 pips any day of the week. Good chance we're going to pull back before continuing. Okay, the trade still makes sense, but we got to think about how far are we going to push before we reject. So yeah, closed the first position there. I'm for about 1.2% around there. Okay, and I ended up holding this position over here all the way down to this wick fill. Okay, so you can see as we filled this wick, I closed positions there. Okay, because I thought, you know, we're only 10 pips away from that 4-hour level. We've got exactly what we wanted. We got the big volume push and we got about 38 pips. Okay, good chance before we're going to pull back and continuing. But in hindsight, it's always easier because it ended up pushing an extra 200 pips. As you can see, if we just trailed our stop, would have gotten quite a big W there. But yeah, that's something I can still work on. Something I can take into next week, seeing that we had volume. There was no real reason to close. We filled this wick, but we had such good volume, good chance we're going to continue down. And then especially sort of with this breakout. But yeah, the danger with that is this pullback over here could have easily gone back to entry and then continue down. Okay, so you got to understand that on average, each session pushes an average amount. Okay, it doesn't just always push 100 pips. It pushes 100 pips overall, but it pushes 15 pips, then pulls back. Then 20 pips, then pulls back, then 10 pips, then pulls back, and then continues. Okay, so if your entry is anywhere around here, you're just going to get break even, okay? Because it's not worth holding this position fully to stop loss because you don't know if price is going to reject, okay? So in hindsight, it's easy to say I should have just left this open, but to me, it made sense to close at this wick fill, and that was the plan. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sure I rambled a bit more than I should have, but very happy with that trade, and I hope you guys learned something. Feel free to ask any questions.